Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you for joining us on another episode of Someday with Jay Barsky. I'm happy that you are streaming this episode. I'm happy that you're listening. I'm just a happy person today, which is why I'm happy to present this new episode where I have a new guest. His name is Cully. Cully is considered a beach hop artist based out of New York. For anyone that's followed the previous podcast I had, Coley was actually one of my first guests on the Irie Chat series, and I wanted to get an update on how he's doing. We're friends. We keep in touch on a usual basis, but at least for the podcast, I want to kind of update the listeners of everything that's going on with him. He's just a good friend. He's someone that's really inspired me. Even though he's younger than me, he's someone that's really inspired me when I originally met him, and everything that he's doing with his musical career and everything is his background and just his mindset on everything is so positive that I'm happy to have him on this podcast. So we talk about a few things about things that inspire him, motivate him. We talk about shooting his new Aquafina video and what motivates him throughout his musical journey. So I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for streaming this podcast. I hope you enjoy our chat with Coley in this new episode of Sunday with Jay Barsky. All right, Coley, what's up, man? How you been? It's been such a long time since you and I talked. Update me and the listeners of everything.
I'm chilling, man. It's good to see you. It's been a while. Back to being in Barsky territory here. Dude, I'm great. I just moved back to New York. I was living in New Orleans for like a year and a half. I'm renovating what I call a mid-century, not so modern house. So that's gonna be a couple months of sort of the next project I'm sinking my teeth into non-musically. But I'm also building the studio in the upper level of the house, so pretty excited about that. Let's see, early August I got the video for Aquafina coming out, so it's been a long time coming. Pretty stoked about that. Shot that out in LA, and that was actually like a year ago. It was last July, so we just spent a lot of time editing it and getting it right. Got the vinyl coming out for Aquafina as well. A couple cool remixes on there from some friends that did like sort of house versions and like just chopped it up. I have one friend who's a wonderful guitar player, Thomasina. He made like this guitar version of Aquafina, and they came out really dope. So excited about that, and yeah, just really wrapping up that EP. It's been crazy because that came out like 3 years ago at this point. And it's just been like the longest rollout of shot 2 videos for it, and being an independent artist, not having a label budget, everything takes like 35 times as long. But hey, that's cool because I get creative control, and it's been a fun process. So that's where I'm at.
I remember you mentioning that you did have an LP in your mind or idea in your mind. Has that kind of expanded or grown since then?
Yeah, so I do have a project that's probably, I think it's 100% written and recorded, and about half the songs are actually like done. It's 10 songs. I'm really calling it a mixtape more than an LP, just because it's a bunch of different beats, and I've worked with a bunch of different mix engineers. So I don't think it's like as cohesive as an album, but it's going to be a collection of like 10 or 11 songs from the past 4 years that I've recorded. And yeah, it's called Sad Boy Nights. And I'll send you the cover art. I haven't shared it yet publicly, but I'll send you that. It's a cool illustration from a British illustrator that's sort of like 70s, 80s, like almost like a GTA cover, but not really. But yeah, the artwork's sick. That's about halfway done. And then I'll see if I financially have it in me to shoot another music video, because it's sort of at the point where I cannot logically bootstrap and self-finance these things because they're so darn expensive. So we'll see. I might shoot one more in, I think, New Mexico. But yeah, if not, it's going to be a cool mixtape. And I am hoping to wrap that up in the fall, winter. And then I have a couple other projects, not even all musical. Like I have a book that I did with a friend. it's 5 years. We went to this music festival, and I always brought disposable cameras. So the book would be 5 years of this festival through the lens of a disposable camera with some of his poetry. And like so many of my projects, they take years for me to finish because I have crippling perfectionism. But might work on that. Have a piece of furniture I designed that I'm getting patented probably next month. So a lot of cool things in the works. And then hoping to have the studio built and maybe produce some friends' records and do some of my own stuff. So, but yeah, that's the follow up is Sad Boy Nights.
So you mentioned about the Aquafina video, which I meant to ask you earlier. So how was it filming that video?
So that was a dope process. It really, like so many things, I mean, I had the ideas pretty quick, and then it took really like the better part of 2 years to actually finish the video. But I was watching. Well, let's see. First, I really just had the ideas of like this sort of classic California cool vibe, like bordering on cliche West Coast. Wanted like the 6'4" Impala and the cute girl and whatever, just California stuff. And I was watching this video, and it was Dom Kennedy, Smoke Dizza, and Kaz from Dreamville. And as an artist, like you kind of learn as you get older that you can just send cold emails to people and things will actually work out. We idolize people when we're younger, and I think that's actually bad when you're older because you should almost view them more as like coworkers. So I sent an email to the director of that video, Salvatore Rubino. It was like, hey, I got this idea, and I wrote up a treatment similar to Island Girl. I wrote a storyboard for Island Girl, and worked with the producer for that. But it being a video, I mean, I can't do every part myself. It would be ridiculous. So I usually hire a production company. I bring my ideas to them. And so yeah, we just linked up, and I had a legitimate like PowerPoint Google slide nowadays presentation, and just went over everything from the color scheme that I was going for to the models of cars that I thought were acceptable to what the model should look like, yada yada. And it being a video, there's a million moving parts, so things changed at the last minute. One of the craziest things was the car rental. So we never found a 6'4" Impala, but 62 through 64 are basically the same look, and very little difference. So I found a 6'2" Impala and a 6'3" Impala in the exact baby blue color I wanted. Interior matched the exterior, convertible, both dope. And so that was the biggest expense of the whole budget. Actually, it ended up being like almost a quarter of the budget was just on the car.
Wow.
But one had hydraulics and one did not, and the one that had hydraulics cost $1,000 more per day than the one that didn't.
Mhm.
And it was kind of sketchy. I knew it was sketchy going into it. The guy I was dealing with was a sketchball. I don't want to say his name, but he was named after a farm bird, and that was my first red flag. His nickname was this bird, and it was like I don't know. But against my better judgment, I went with him. I mean, the glitter, sort of blinded me of the hydraulics, and again, I wanted that classic California thing. So we're riding around in the car, and I had negotiated a cash discount. So I literally paid this guy like $2,000 cash, and I had to get it out of the an ATM in downtown LA at like 1 a.m. the previous night. Very sketchy situation, and fortunately, because of COVID, they actually changed the ATM limits, so I was able to get all the money I needed.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was a very luck of the draw. A lot of things, I mean, just like random things happened that worked out. And so I get there and, pay the cash and get the receipt signed off, and we rig up the car with the cameras and we're doing some test shots, calibrating things. And it seems to be going pretty well. We're doing a couple rough takes, and we pull into this parking lot to make adjustments on the lenses and things like that. And this blacked out Escalade rolls up. And this dude hops out and he's like, "What the fuck are you doing in my car, man?" And I'm like, "Oh shit, like what's happening?" And apparently the dude who was the car broker uh, didn't mention to the car owner that we were going to be driving the car,
Oh,
uh, which I had double. I mean, I'm a very thorough person, and I had double checked, and I was like, I explicitly asked, the owner knows we will be driving the car, right? Yeah, dude, totally cool. So he dropped the ball in that in so many other ways. But long story short, he basically hijacked his car off the set, and we had to scramble for a new car, which I then hit up my man Bob, and Bob came through. Bob owns like legit, car production company.
mhm.
Super nice dude. Like, just lives the life, collects Rolls Royces, and has a couple hookups to these older American cars. And Bob came through big time. But yeah, yeah, Birdman is what I'll call him. I don't want to say his name and shame him publicly, but he did cost me like $1,300 over budget. So shame on him. For being unprofessional. But not gonna hold a grudge. Just never gonna work with them again. But yeah, I mean, everything about that video is ridiculous. The model we originally had got hired by the LA Clippers to be a cheerleader like 2 days before the shoot, and we ended up finding a replacement while walking down the street to get tacos. Shout out to Callie.
Yeah.
This cute chick that just had the right vibe, like just goofy and relaxed, and all the just the vibe was right. She was super chill. Um, and yeah, it ended up working out perfectly. We lost almost an entire day, at least a full half day shoot, because of the car mishap, and that was the first like scenes we were shooting. So that kind of it could have put a bad sour mood over things. Um, but I kind of went in with a mentality like by any means necessary, and we were able to do it. Um, so yeah, and it was like dealing with insurance and stuff in the last minute. Yeah, like try to find production car insurance in LA on like a 12-hour notice, and let me know if that's not very stressful and expensive. So yeah, it ended up working out.
Since music is pretty much your full-time thing, you have, like, hobbies outside of music that kinda, like, you wanna take a break from? And I mention it because just being a comedian myself, and as we were discussing off air that, like, I need to take breaks from, like, stand-up and comedy, which is why I'm doing this podcast. It gives me nice breaks from, just going out and about. But so do you have hobbies that you can kinda escape away from?
Yeah, I mean, music is nice because it's such a huge field that like if I'm feeling like I'm a little burnt out and I'm writing and rapping, I can just pick up a guitar and start noodling around, and if I'm not feeling that, I can just sit down at the piano and so it's hard to get bored of like music as a whole, but I've definitely had certain elements like I was a recording engineer for first 2 years out of college, and I was working like 100+ hour work weeks, and I really did burn out of that. I mean, and this isn't uncommon for people that do engineering for a living. I'd leave the studio and like it was a silent drive home. Like I was not listening to music after
Yeah.
listen to the same 4 bars of a song for like hours at a time and stuff like that. Um, but I mean, in terms of other hobbies, a lot of other creative things like, geez, I mean, I've been fixing up this house as I mentioned, and found boxes of just cool clothes, even some like vintage Beach Boys tour T-shirts and stuff. And it sounds silly, but some of them, might have like a mild stain or they're white tees, and I love renovating and refurbishing things. So
Mhm.
finding just ways to like whiten up old T-shirts. It sounds super lame and random, but fixing up like I had this dope vintage New York lottery hat that I found, a snapback, um, and this is my grandfather's home, and he golfed a lot, and it was like this huge like sweat stains. Clearly, he never washed a thing, and he played a lot of golf in the sun with it. But just finding like how can we make this as white and original as possible. And like I love just renovating things. My uncle's old drum kit. I work with professionals who do that like full time, but making like old things new again in cool ways, and designing stuff. And I used to draw and illustrate more when I was younger, but um, like I said, I'm into like kind of furniture design. I don't want to reveal too much because I want to just share the patent when I get it. I'm applying for a design patent for the thing I did for some like musically themed furniture, which sounds kind of lame, but it came out cool. And yeah, I mean, to really escape, just go outdoors and like do some physical activity and listen to nature. Like some of the, I think the best music is just like birds. Birds sound dope all the time. I've never been like annoyed by a bird. I don't think. I mean, so go outside and visit the nature and work up a sweat and see friends. I mean, there's so much to do in life, and I think it's important to stay balanced. So yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to a Hawaiian artist named Chloe Kai, or I think it's like Kalohe Kai. I don't know if you've heard of him. And he was mentioning when he goes in the water, that's when in the beach in the water, that's where he hears the melodies. And this is someone that he's made some great hits in reggae music. And the fact that he hears those melodies in the water, I find that amazing, which is why I started like doing silent trips at the beach, just not listening to my headphones, not being really connected to my phone. And I kind of feel I don't hear melodies, I hear jokes. I hear like punchlines, I hear bits when I'm just doing like hanging out on the beach, just doing beach walks. That's when I can say like that's where I hear my jokes, or that's where I get my little bit of my inspiration is just from that silence, because I can kind of focus on myself, focus what's best for me. And silence is nice to have. I think it's something that I appreciate to have. I like going through comedy albums, but like you mentioned, like silent trips, like at some point you get tired of hearing the same old thing.
I definitely agree. And the outdoors is nice because I mean,
Yeah.
it's never fully silent. Like if you were in like, an acoustically treated room. Like I went to a Buddhist temple in New York years back to like meditate, and I couldn't do it because it was like trying to meditate was like an oxymoron to me. My mind just ran more rampant. I was aware of all these people around me trying to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And like the outdoors, like you say, it's quiet in terms of there's no like man-made sounds usually or industrial sounds if you're really out there, but there's always a rhythm of like waves washing or wind hitting leaves a certain way and causing a percussive rattle or just I mean again birds are I love birds. Sounds so goofy. My friends who know me like I harbor this secret project. If I ever like came across like just a couple of $1 million and several decades of spare time, I would make this software instrument. And I hope someone hears this who has the resources to make it, because I don't even care if I make it. As long as it's made, I'd be happy. Of like a keyboard is basically you map it out to a keyboard, and it would be a library of all the different bird sounds. And so you could organize it in different ways. You could have it be like pitch accurate, or you could take, you could organize it by like genus and species and like get really. I mean, I'm not even I
Mhm.
failed science in high school, so I might not be speaking the right words, but you could organize it in a bunch of different ways, and you could have it be these realistic ways and these unrealistic, where you could take the pitch of a bird and then map it into every octave. Like I think that would be a cool little software sample based synth. That's another idea. But yeah, nature, man, I love it.
What I thought was really cool about you, I'm a beach bum. I want to call myself a traveling beach bum, which is something you describe yourself as. So I gotta ask, because I like to experience different beaches when I travel around. What are some of your favorite beaches that you've been to?
Uh, Definitely. Oh man, there's a lot. There's so many beaches. There's
Give me your top three.
and even outside of like a lot of people think of like white sand beaches. I mean, I've been in amazing beaches that are like gravelly and not comfortable to even sit on, and just because of one reason or another, they still end up being a vibe. But I was living in New Orleans for a bit, and I'm from New York, and I travel up and down the East Coast of the U.S. a lot, and I always make it a point to stop at Folly Beach, South Carolina, right outside of Charleston. Um, and that's like just I don't even know how it came to be. I think it started as a pretty much a random choice. But I got into surfing a couple of years ago, and any beach I'm at, I'll just hit up a local pro and take a lesson because I'm still like a novice when it comes to like reading currents and figuring out the whole scenario. So anytime I'm in Folly Beach, I hit up my man Kyle Busey, highly recommend. And I'll just go and surf with him, and he just imparts so much like knowledge and wisdom, even outside of the sport of surfing, just like on a spiritual and like professional level. He's one of the greatest like teachers I've ever had. So I always make it a point to stop in Folly Beach if I'm going up or down the East Coast and surf with him. Let's see. I did an amazing sea kayak expedition in Baja California, uh, Mexico, on the little peninsula that goes below California, and that was so cool because it was like every night we'd stop at a different beach to camp, and it was like the sampler pack of beaches. Like some were white sand and some were like lush and had these like mangroves. Some were super rough, and like had a ton of sea urchins, and then some you'd see like you saw these tarantulas on this one beach, and it was always a vibe, always something different going on. So just the variety there, like that little piece of coast, that was definitely sort of a life changing, life affirming trip. So that sticks in my mind. And the last one would probably be, let me think. I mean, I don't even know if it counts as a beach. It's really a set of concrete steps that like goes into the Mississippi River. But a couple blocks from my apartment in New Orleans, I'd always walk. It's called the Moonwalk. It's right by Jackson Square and by all those old school steamboat ferries. Um, and I wish I would say I would go there to think, and sometimes I could think, but New Orleans is such a crazy city. I would really go there to potentially think, but also to potentially see something crazy because I've seen the wildest stuff. Like I saw these two homeless guys fighting, and like WWE style, this dude cracked a like washboard over the other guy's head and just knocked him out cold, and it was the most insane thing ever. Like WWE on the streets is what it was.
Just a little bit different. Like since I had you on the Irie Chat podcast, it was like more of interviews, but this is a podcast that I can be more comfortable in having a discussion, which, as you know already, it's about motivation. And you've always came across as you're a motivated person. I mean, especially in like getting into the music industry, especially being independent artist. So, what practices do you do that really help motivate you?
Um, I mean, there's like this sort of. It sounds super hippy dippy and somewhat. I mean, it's not really that abstract to be honest. Um, like, but if I get stressed, because I mean, failure, of course, is going to cause some stress, even if you're somewhat comfortable with it. It's just not a pleasant thing. And in so many industries, you can kind of fail behind closed doors. And as an artist, I mean, you can still, you might shelf a song or not put it out, but it's still a very public activity. And especially nowadays, I mean, you're releasing stuff on social media, and everyone can see it. But something I do to keep things in perspective is I love like looking up at the stars at night. The place I moved in New York is just not as much light pollution as New Orleans, so I can see a lot. And that was the beautiful part about being in Mexico is I'd never seen that many stars in my life. But looking up and realizing like how vast the universe is, and then also just thinking like I'm basically a slightly sophisticated ape on a rock that's like flying through space. Like that kind of takes out a lot of stress because it's like this. And you think about what preceded the Big Bang. It's always a question that no one could actually answer. I don't think. Um, and it just keeps it in perspective of like none of this even really makes that much sense. Like theoretically, the chances of any of this existing, like all the right things had to happen. And for whatever reason, it just kind of takes some stress off because most things that we worry about are like, oh man, I'm not making enough money. I don't have enough, blog coverage. I'm not on the cover of this magazine, yada yada. And they're all these man-made things. Like as long as I have my health, you can take almost everything else away. Like it, really, I couldn't be that stressed out. And even if you lose your health, I mean, people acclimate to that. But yeah, just keeping things in perspective and keeping things in a weird perspective of that whole, intergalactic, what the heck's going on kind of vibe. Um, that keeps my stress down and that keeps my head on. I don't know if it's on straight, but on whatever slight angle it's on. And that definitely helps out.
So, do you have any routine practices that you share maybe on a daily basis?
Um, I mean, in terms of motivation, it's tough. I mean, daily practices, like I'm not a super strict routine person. I'm not very time based. I'm more like objective based, which really goes like against the vast majority of like Western civilization. Like the people just go by the clock on stuff, and I was fortunate. My first job out of school, being a recording engineer, worked at a place where everyone was on, a big major label budget, or just had like endless financing. So we just work on something till it was done. And when you went in, I'm going to work on 3 songs. You don't know if you're going to be there for, a day or two or like a week straight. And scheduling that could be kind of a pain, but I like that because you're there until the job's done right. And I sort of approach certain aspects of my life like that. It's not always possible, but like I feel my best when I wake up without an alarm in the morning. I am big no alarm gang. Love it when I can get it. Can't always get that, of course, because like I said, sort of Western civilization pokes its head and can't just live under a rock. But that, and I feel really, it's like this unwritten thing and seemingly unnoticed, but the human body and mind, like, pretty much tell you what you need. It's kind of amazing. I mean, if you're tired, your body's telling you if you need sleep. I mean, you genuinely, even with food, it's kind of weird. Like, I can tell if I haven't been eating a balanced diet and I'm not measuring anything out. I'm not like logging what I'm eating. My body's like, yo, you haven't eaten enough like quinoa. You gotta get some grains, get that kind of energy. Like, it's strange. But yeah, I think just listening to yourself is like a huge thing, and self care. Um, and probably the most important step of self care is not like self delusion, um, and just not lying to yourself. Just being honest is like huge. I mean, I've been as an artist. I mean, there's people in the artistic community, um, and I mean, there's mental health issues everywhere, but I had friends and family you see from the outside, and it's so obvious. And you ask them, and it's like they are clearly like manufacturing a story to tell themselves. So I think just being honest with yourself is such a huge thing. One thing I do pretty routinely uh, is invest my money, and I think that's a huge thing. A lot of creative people, we don't make that much money. Most of us, 99.8% of us, I would say. I mean, maybe 1 in 500 are doing really well.
Mhm.
I mean, most artists don't even make a net profit. There's plenty of artists that don't make any money because they don't sell their stuff. But um, just investing and having options, having an emergency fund of 3 6 12 months living expenses, in a high yield savings account, and getting your retirement accounts set up, and paying off debt and not taking on debt. Like, I think a huge part of self-care that's overlooked is like financial self-care. So
Mhm.
I make it a point to invest a considerable percentage of my money. Nothing crazy. I'm not even gonna really say what it's in, but it's in conservative things. I'm not gonna advocate like crypto or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, just being smart with your. I don't even want to say smart because that's not the right word. Being disciplined with your money, um, and in general, like being disciplined. It's funny because discipline creates freedom, and it's like it's a weird. There's a very Zen principle there. It's like it sort of takes away your freedom, but it gives you a different kind of freedom, which I think is preferable. But yeah, I mean, self care. I know it's a hugely broad subject, but and then another thing is like beyond being honest with yourself, being kind of uh woke isn't the right word because that means something else, but kind of having your wits about you, because self-care has been um, absorbed and sort of understood by companies that now use it as like a marketing tactic. So you got to figure out what's marketing and My little sister buys like $7 bottles of oat milk, and I'm like, I don't know if that's really self care. And I love the Walmart brand almond milk. It's only like $2.40, and I think it's just as good. But uh, you know, and it's I don't know, like being aware and sort of questioning things and thinking of the motives behind things, and you don't want to do it to the point where you don't trust anything and you're completely paranoid. Again, it's a balance, but I mean, I think of like passion when I was in college. The big thing was follow your passion. Even in high school, your guidance counselors, follow your passion. And I think it's smart, but also, you know, use your logical brain, like because passion has admittedly some parties, um, colleges and plenty of businesses have sort of weaponized passion in a lot of ways, and it's become a way to for certain businesses and institutions to like kind of just make more money. And if things don't pan out, they have all of the upside, none of the downside. So keeping your wits about you, and follow your dreams, but also like follow your intuition and your gut feeling at the same time, because there's just so many layers to this man-made structure. That's why when I relax, I just think I'm a ape on a rock in space, and all that stuff goes to the wayside. But yeah.
The alarm clock thing really did a difference for me in just my life and happiness. I would say like right after I've always like kind of jumped into the next safety net for me. Like after undergrad in college, I jumped to grad school. After grad school, I knew I wanted to do the Peace Corps, so I was doing that after a couple of years, and then I just joined the workforce and like getting a 9 to 5. And one thing that I thought that I had to do was to wake up early in the morning, have an alarm clock, like set up 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning. And that was going to be my life every day. And then at some point, I'm like, I don't like waking up to an alarm clock. Like you just want to put it on snooze and just keep
Hmm.
doing. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. And then so it came to a point that, I was like, let me just try it out. Let me just stop using an alarm clock and see if I'm naturally a morning person anyways. What helps me is I drink a lot of water too. So that helps me, need to get up in the morning. But I would say after I stopped doing that, and this was a couple of years, I want to say good 3, 4 years using an alarm clock. And it just made a big difference in my life. I mean, I know how much sleep I need. I mean, if I take a nap during the day or power naps, I'm always talking about that. But I know I need to wake up early, so I need to go to sleep early. Can't, need to stay up late and stuff, or I need to find the ways to help me go to sleep earlier. But yeah, the alarm clock thing, ever since I stopped that, I felt like I've been more of a happier person just because I don't have to feel like I have to do this stuff. I want to go on my own pace. I want to like follow my own journey. I don't want to have my phone, which typically is an alarm clock set up.
Right.
I don't want my phone to tell me what I should be doing.
Yeah. It's technology is like a funny thing because it enables us to do so many things. And then my brother actually, he had the point. He thinks like Meta, the parent company of Facebook. He's like, that's like the Philip Morris of our generation. Like, because it enables us to do so many things, but it's also like it has that dark side to it. And I feel kind of funny because I too, I mean, use my phone as an alarm when I need to. And yeah, it feels weird, like because you always kind of you only need it to hit, the snooze or whatever. But then you start, scrolling, you hop on Instagram and blah blah blah. And before you know it, that sucked out a portion of your day and probably didn't give you anything in return. So it's interesting.
I don't know if I told you this, but I never knew about Instagram for the longest. I guess I was in my own shell. And it wasn't until I did the iReChat thing that's when I actually did a Instagram just for that. So I just like at least just for myself, at least for this the socials, I finally have my own Instagram. It's work. It's like I want to make a positive impact in social media, but at the same time, I don't want to get into social media.
It is straight up like another full time job, and
Yeah.
again, looking at people's motives, because as an artist, we were always told by mass media, which that should be a red flag in and of itself. And college, oh, you got to be on social media, you got to be on this, and then you're like, that's low key a full time job. And
Yeah.
I remember I was in the studio engineering for an artist, and I was scrolling through her Instagram, and it was like a photo of her in Japan, and the caption was like something related to Japan. I was like, dude, you posted this 10 minutes ago. I didn't say this to her. I'm thinking this to myself, and we're in New York. Like, someone is. We're literally. You have a staff working for you,
Yeah.
and it's a majorly successful artist. And then we, as independent artists, try to emulate the same standards, and it's just setting ourselves up to fail because, I mean, creativity and all that's great, but at some point, there is tons of financing behind that stuff, and you can't have a $10 million career for like $500. It's just not going to work out.
It's so cheesy when you see people like post photos like that and like saying they're in different locations, knowing they're not there. You're like, yo, I just saw you like at work the other day. What are you
Yeah,
saying?
yeah. I mean,
Like,
I because there's like the later Graham concept, and I'm sort of guilty of that, but I never try to make it look like I'm there in the moment. It's sort of like I like to share. I use Instagram in a somewhat personal and kind of weird way because I use it as like a personal record. I mean, I want to be able to scroll sometimes, like a scrapbook.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I don't ever try to make a point of like appearing like I'm somewhere when I'm not. But I mean, I shoot a lot of film too, so things take. I literally need to get them developed at like a photo lab. So, but yeah, that is a Drake has a line about that. Something I can't remember the line, but yeah, that's a common thing. But later, Graham. Oh man.
I'll be honest though, I'm guilty. I did it once, only one time. I just did it once. I wasn't somewhere. Not, I was just home, but I was pretending that I was somewhere. And you couldn't really tell because it was like sunlight and stuff, so it looked like I was in a beachy spot, even though I wasn't. It was just I needed to post something.
Yeah, well, that's yeah. They make you
I
think
learned
that.
a lesson after that was like years ago. Like now I don't do that.
No, lesson learned. Lesson, yeah. It's funny. Like, social media goes through trends, just like real life. Like the filters and stuff.
Hey, those filters will fool you.
Dude, well, the Snapchat. I'm talking like OG, like the color. Now the filters are crazy. Yeah, now you can like change, the shape of your, facial features and stuff, and do crazy stuff. I FaceTime with some buddies, and one of them used to always put on like the emoji that maps to your face, and he just become like a unicorn or a frog, and it was hilarious. But it's kind of wild.
So, are there any new projects that you want to share for our listeners that they can expect from you?
Yeah, so let's see. The rollout right now is the video for Aquafina is going to be out August 5th of this year, so a little over a month away. That'll just be premiering on YouTube and hopefully on some blogs and things. Then the vinyl for Aquafina is going to be out the August 8th. So that's got I got it remastered for vinyl by a great mastering engineer down in Argentina, and it was cool. It was a cool process. I mean, I really just wanted to make vinyl because I'm sort of curious of like manufacturing processes and things like that. But one of the constraints is like with vinyl, if it's too bass heavy, you can actually bounce the needle out of the groove just due to the physical, aspects of vinyl. So I had it remastered and went through that whole process. And the A side is going to be the classic. We have the original, and then the radio edit, acapella, which I called the aquapella. And then the instrumental, and the B side is going to be four awesome remixes that some friends of mine did. And yeah, I'm really stoked. And there'll be like house versions of Aquafina and just like super cool stuff. And really excited about that. And that'll be available digitally, those remixes, like a week after the vinyl comes out. And then after that, it's gonna be Sad Boy Nights. I'm not sure how long that's gonna take, but like I said, I'm about halfway done with it. Got the artwork done, and yeah, after that, I'm not sure. I have this like bedroom pop album I wrote and sort of demoed a lot, but it's out of my wheelhouse. Like I can make hip hop professionally pretty much on myself and just outsourcing. But for the bedroom pop album, I want to actually hire a producer and work with this dude who's actually in Oklahoma, who does some really awesome records that I like. So again, being an independent artist, it only takes me about 2 minutes to have an idea, and then it takes me like 2 years to get the money together. So we'll see how long that takes. Because yeah, oh my gosh, it's weird looking at some demos and like, man, it's 5 years ago, and I'm just competing resources. It's tough. So there's that. But yeah, Sad Boy Nice is probably gonna be the next real mixtape, which I'm excited for. And then once I build my studio, music might just start flowing that I didn't even know was in there. So got a couple singles in the works too. Yeah, a bunch of stuff. I mean, people who know me know I take forever to finish anything.
Since we're wrapping up, and do you have any final words you want to leave our listeners to help motivate them to achieving their someday in their lives?
Like I said, follow your dreams, but also follow your intuition. I would say is a good one, and I'm gonna motivate them to follow me on social media. So coolest Cully is most socials, and yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing really is trust your gut and don't be getting gaslit out there. It's a lot of people try to do that, and check people's motives, and take care of yourself physically, mentally, financially, spiritually. Take care of yourself, because plenty of people will just ring you out and go on to the next one. So there's only one you. Um, yeah, that's pretty much my sage wisdom at the old age of 27.
Cool, cool. All right. Well, Coley, appreciate you chatting or catching up with you. Definitely, you're gonna come back, and when you get that LP out, we'll definitely talk again and have some more great discussions. But I appreciate you having the time and joining us and our listeners on talking with you and helping them achieve their someday in their lives. But I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so much.
Likewise, Barsky, man. Thanks for having me on, and I look forward to your future success.
All right, so I hope you took something out of that chat with Coley. He's a great guy, very inspiring brother to me. If you wish to follow him on all his socials, you can refer to our episode notes where you can see the links to all of that. Make sure you stream all his music and check out his new video that should be out sometime soon called Aquafina. So please rate and comment on this podcast to help make it grow. That's how it expands to more listeners. And this is how I can continue to get more episodes out there for you and inspire other people to achieve their someday in their lives. If you wish to follow me, my socials are at I am Jay Barsky on everything. But thank you for listening to this podcast. Again, I hope you got something out of it. And thanks for listening to Someday with Jay Barsky. And I'll see you soon.